Okay.
Salam.
How about online user? Can you listen to me?
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are honored to have our guest, which is Dr. Abdullah Hadi Ahmad Fuaad from University Malaya, who will be talking about the introduction to open distance learning. And I would like to share with you some of the a little bit of background from Dr. Hadi. He is from the Department of Chemistry, Faculty of Science, University Malaya. His education background, he holds a PhD in medicinal chemistry from University of Queensland, and also a Bachelor of Science from Chemical Biotechnology from the same university. And his area of expertise is nanotoxicity, precision cut lung slices, nanotoxicity assay, immunology, peptide-based vaccine, self-adjuvanting vaccines, animal study, ELISA, catalytic assay. These are some of his achievements. He won the award Anugerah Cemerlang University Malaya in 2023, and as well as Anugerah Perkhidmatan Cemerlang 2023. And he is also the visiting scientist for Harvard School of Public Health in 2019 as well as in 2018. And these are some of his recent experiences. He was the head of e-learning division from 2022 until 2024. EDEC Fellow, University Malaya, from April 2021 until April 2022. He's currently the senior lecturer at University of Malaya. Since 2018, from Department of Chemistry, Faculty of Science. His current role is he is now the Director of Teaching and Learning Innovation Division, which has just started recently, March. Huh? Oh, very fun. So probably you'll share the changes later. Okay, so he is a member of Council of Coordinating Leaders of E-Learning for Public Higher Education Institution in Malaysia, MIRTA. His role is managing a team of instructional designers, leading the strategic planning and rollout of micro-credential processes and open and distant learning programs. His leadership has been instrumental in successfully launching 48 MC courses and 6 ODL programs, enhancing educational access and opportunities for students. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Hadi to present his training for today.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. I hope those are online can hear me, and if I move around, I hope they can hear me too. Okay, so before we start, I have this very short talk quiz, so to say, just to see if you are actually ready for ODL. If you manage to get 5 out of 5, pretty much you can just leave the room. You don't have to listen to what I'm saying. Okay, so those are online. You can also participate. It's a very simple question. Okay, so just take your phone, scan this, and then you should be able to see something like that on the left hand side. Okay, belajar sambil bermain. So, so we have 11. I'm not sure how many of us here. We have about 30-ish. So if you want to join, then we can. So it's really short, like questions. Very, very simple ones. And it's related to this topic anyhow. Okay, so if you can answer these questions, then pretty much you have good grasp understanding of ODL, and you can start your lesson. Okay, exactly. You haven't started yet. Yeah. So just to see how many people are ready, because attendance is about 35, including a few of us, so close to 30. Currently we have 80 joining. That is scared. Um, right. Hopefully that attendance can okay, so 21, ada orang lain lagi tak nak join? Tak ada? Okay. Alright, so just make a start. Okay, so ready? Set. Question number 1. Okay, let's go. What does ODL stands for? There are 4 options: online distance learning, online distance learning, open and distance learning, open development and learning, online development and learning. Okay, so congrats, 11 of you. So it's not online. So this is a common misunderstanding. People always say it's online, but technically ODL is not about simply online. Okay, so we will look at the historical perspective after this. Okay, question number 2. What is 22, 22? What is the core principle of ODL? So fixed schedule, modern classroom, TNL, learner-centered approach, limited use of technology. Again, simple basic ones. Okay, so it's a learner-centered approach. Modern classroom, TNL, it depends on the definition, depends on how you actually do it. It depends on the definition of ODL itself. We will see more about this after this. So it's not everybody got it right, which is fine. Otherwise, I can just go back to UM. Okay, so this is the last one. Choose your preference. If you're less ready, pick 1. If you are ready, pick 10. So there's 3 questions over here. So delivery of ODL program is similar to the normal program. Yes or no? No is 1. So on the left. The version of ODL is similar to conventional program. And third one, I'm ready to develop ODL program. So basically, this is a reflective of your English. Do you have internationals here? Can you understand Malay? If I mix it up or so? Yes, even there. All right. Okay. 16. All right. So that's all. Okay. Okay. There's more question. Okay. Let's do more. Which of the following should be the LMS for ODL? So this is again just to look at whether you understand what is LMS, what is ODL, and what would be platforms that you think is related to ODL. Okay, so we have Moodle, Blackboard, Coursera, Microsoft Teams. And we will look into this, why Moodle is number one, why Moodle is correct while the other three is wrong. Okay, in principle, technically everything is correct. Okay, but in practice, especially in the Malaysian scenario, then only Moodle is correct. The other three is not. Why? We'll see. Okay, and last one. Very good. One more. Okay, what is should be crucial? That is crucial for creating engaging content in the ODL program. So you have long unbroken text, multimodal media, multiple images, audio lecture. There are also different modes, but I'm putting here by default. Okay, so 13 got it right. So at least more than half of you are ready. We have 43, or like this one is 20. So slightly more than half of you are ready to do an ODL program. Okay, so congratulations. Not sure who's who. Okay, book where you are. Congrats. You are ready to create an ODL program. Okay, right. Okay, so should hide this thing. Right. Right. So this one here. You can't actually see this, but that's actually ASPD. So UM has recently been restructured into previously Video, so Academic Development and Enhancement Center. That's what we call equivalent to your CPD in UIA. So originally we are called as EDAC, but we received a new vice chancellor late last year, and he did a little bit of reshuffling, reorganization of the structures, centers. So EDAC is no longer there. And we are combined with previously we called as ASPC, Academic Strategic Planning Center. It becomes a department. So underneath, in this particular department is where my division is. I am from so previously, the I mentioned, bahagian inovasi pembelajaran dan pengajaran. So now, there's a little bit of restructuring because the initial division is so big that I cannot handle everything. Towards the other day, I told my boss if I were to still lead the original unit or division, pretty much I cannot do any research, I cannot do any teaching because there's so many things that I need to do. So I discussed with my superior and they decided to split the unit into two. One is what we call as division of what do you call it? BPD, so bahagian pelajaran digital or digital learning division. Okay. So the other one is still innovation, bahagian inovasi pembelajaran dan pengajaran. So teacher and learning innovation division. So what are the differences? So particularly the structure, my unit looking after all the e-learning components. So including MC, ODL, and our LMS, learning management systems, and everything, all the electronic teaching and learning related tools will be under my department, while anything else outside of digital tools will be on the original teaching and learning innovation division. Okay, so this is what ESBD is. So in future, if you would like to contact us, this is the new unit. Okay, so the title that I was given is Introduction to Open and Distance Learning. But first, to give an introduction to ODL itself, you would have seen Copa ODL. We will not finish. We cannot just simply finish within 2 hours. Okay, so Copa ODL is a very, very thick document. It talks about everything from A to Z about ODL. So what I'm trying to do is basically just trying to focus on what are the questions being asked by your CPD unit. Okay, So from there, I break it down into just breaking the area on how you can innovate education using ODL approach. Okay, so the talk will be covering all of these aspects. I did a mock running, so it took me about about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Okay, so if you do have any questions, for those who are online, you can just put it in the chat. For those of you who are here, you can stop me anytime, ask me questions, and if I can answer it, I'll answer it straight away. Okay. So the talks will be divided into 5 sections. Number 1 is looking at understanding of principle of ODL itself. What is ODL? So we've seen previously on the first question, I asked you guys what is ODL, and some, not all, mentioned that ODL is online distance learning. Okay, so it's not online, it's more on actually open, and we'll go into the principle after this. And then number 2, how you can quickly utilize digital tools in your preparation for ODL, development of ODL. And then how, related to also that, is how you can actually design materials for ODL. And then after that, once you have your program ready, it depends on how your structure of ODL center in the university is. It moves into how you actually implement the support system. So this is part of the requirement. If you have any experience on development of curriculum based on your conventional program, okay, so ODL has slightly different code of practice. Okay, so there's COPA ODL by NQA, and there's small differences between the conventional COPA and COPA ODL, particularly in the area 1, 3, and 5. Okay, and part of it is the support system. Okay, so support system for students learning as an ODL program and students who are taking your conventional program are totally different. Okay, and then how you can apply evaluation strategies to improve your program. Okay, of course, even for us, this is our 2nd semester running ODL, so we are still learning and we are still improving on our own system as well. And to today, if there's any questions, and we will session after that. Okay, so ODL, past, present, and future. Just to keep in on political stance. Dulu kita sama ni. Okay, so this is ODL. Past, present, and future. So what is O? What is D? What is L? So O is open, D is distance, L is learning. Okay. So in terms of OD, the open and distance. Okay. So what does it mean? So open and distance is reflecting of the flexibility and accessibility of your program. Okay. So it's different. It's relatively different than your conventional program, because when you're talking about open, your conventional program is normally closed. Okay, because students taking your conventional program are all students belonging to that particular university, and especially pre-COVID, students must come to the university to actually learn, to engage in the teacher learning. Okay, but when we move to ODL, it is open. It's no longer limited to your own student. The student can be anywhere. It is open to anyone. It's open to any country. Of course, it depends on how you want to the university itself want to put stand, whether you want to get only the Malaysian market or Southeast Asian market, Asian market, or the world market. Okay, so that is the O. While distance is more on destroying or breaking the area in terms of the presence of student. So now the student can be anywhere. Okay, so it can be in campus itself, if they would like to do a double degree. For example, they are doing 1 degree, but they also want to sit for an ODL program that you guys offered, they can do that. Okay, so they can also be somewhere else. Say, for example, if you have a program that I want to learn, I can also enroll while I'm doing my own program, teaching and learning back in UM. Okay, so it is for anyone. It is for anyone that is present anywhere, and it can be done anytime. And of course, with day, any modes. So what I mean by any modes is when you are doing your conventional, the mode is like this. Okay, so there's only normally 1 mode. You can say that flipped classroom is a slightly different mode, but to the end of the day, meeting face to face is 1 mode. ODL, you can do multiple modes. You can do face-to-face, whether it's online or physical. You can have laboratory sessions, for example. You can also have the majority must be done particularly as a SIM. Okay, so do you know what SIM is? Self-instructional material. Okay, yep. So it's SIM. For those who have done perhaps mathematical, then you probably are more accustomed on what SIM is. But for those who have not done it, but I'm not going to touch about SIM. The SIM itself is also long. Okay, but if you were to ask, if you have any question on SIM, so I'll say. Okay, and lastly, about L, which is the learning itself. So basically, on ODL principle, we want to use technology, okay, to bring the teachers, you guys, and students together. Okay, so this is what ODL stands for. You are breaking all barrier from the conventional, and towards the end of the day, the engagement between the teacher and students is still there, even though it's limited. Okay. So if you were to take on these two main documents, so one is POPA, one is guidelines, panduan penawaran program pasca Zuhazah secara terbuka dan jarak jauh. So this one is from, what was it? Not Bapita. What's the other one? Mapta, betul balik. Mapta, the other one, the Magnetic. Okay, so this was developed by Magnetic originally back in 2017. Of course, there's a bit of shift post-COVID, but nonetheless, within these two documents, ODL is referred to the provision of flexible education opportunities in terms of access and multiple modes of knowledge acquisition. Okay, so again, it reflects back to what I presented previously. So the flexibility is there, regardless of who are the students, when they want to learn, how they want to learn, and including to the end of the day, multiple modes. Okay, because when we go into theory of education, right? So with respect to the students itself, so we have students who are more auditory, more visual, more especially the younger generation, more technological enhanced. Okay, so these are all the modes that we need to put into our own ODL program to make sure that we can cater to everybody. Okay, so it will not be simply, say for example, because during COVID, I'm pretty sure all of you guys have done some video recording of the lecture, right? So ODL is not simply just copy whatever you've recorded, paste it, and then it becomes an ODL program. Okay, so it's not simply just taking one video, put it in, done. Okay, so there's more work to be done because to the end of the day, if you just copy and paste, the sync element is missing. Okay, so ODL, the most important thing is about sync. How do you actually engage with your students, and from the engagement, how the student can learn. And of course, to the end of the day, there's so many things about ODL. Okay, all right. So this is about the historical perspective. For those Malaysian, way back, even before 2015, have you heard about PJJ? Pendidikan jarak jauh. Okay, so basically that's ODL. So the original ODL is PJJ. Of course, PJJ back then was a lot about universities preparing thick documents, printing, send it to the student learning on their own at home, completing all the assignments, learning materials, things like that. And all the documents are actually in SIM. Okay, so SIM also is not new. SIM is new, more towards the more technological advance when we started using PowerPoint, replacing OHP. So that's when SIM are actually more used by everybody. Okay, but otherwise, previously PJJ, for those who have perhaps either seen from PJJ, learned from PJJ, or have developed documents for PJJ, you are basically ready to prepare an ODL. So the difference is, previously you prepare all the documents, you print it out, you send it. Now you just prepare it online in the database, and then the student can just go in, log in, and learn from there. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you are now transforming from an open into an online. So that's when people think, it's an online, but the online is just a tool. Okay, so we are replacing pen and paper. into more an online platform. Okay, so that's the difference. So historically, PJJ is 100% based on printed materials, and face-to-face is not compulsory. So technically, if you sit for PJJ or the old ODL, you can just complete everything. Perhaps it depends on the course of the program. You might need to come to university, or you might not need to come to university at all. Okay, so it depends on the structure. And of course, to the other day, when we're talking about PJJ, PJJ is only for Malaysians. Okay, but we are talking about ODL nowadays. You don't have to limit your audience to just Malaysians. So it can be people overseas. It can be our close neighbors, Indonesian. It can be Brunei. So it can be anyone. Okay, so it depends on your mode of delivery. Okay. So for modern times, post 2015, it's more on the online learning and a more advanced SIM. Okay. And the other two requirements that is being put in place by MQA is more than 60% of all courses in the program must be done as a SIM. Okay. And 80% of the course, individual course, SLT must be in SIM format. Okay. So what is SIM? SIM is basically it's a textbook. In different terms, it's a textbook. If I were to give you something, so if I were to give you this slide, can you learn what is ODL? The answer is no, because you need explanation, right? So SIM is about converting your materials into something that people can just either listen, read, watch, listen, read, watch, whatever. Mostly three things. Okay, so they can listen, they can read, they can watch, and pretty much they can acquire the knowledge without you being there. Okay, without you needing to explain further. Okay, so this is what the proper SIM is. Even back in UM, so most of us lecturers, we don't really involve in SIM, but because of COVID, SIM is now being pushed to everybody. So some of the lecturers, some of the comments received by the lecturers are something like student keeps on messaging them, WhatsApping them, asking questions to clarify things. Okay, and then they say that the SIM approach is not feasible because student keeps on asking you questions. So that is a wrong principle. That's a wrong understanding, because the proper SIM is when the students do not need to ask you anything anymore. Okay. So if you have prepared SIM and then students still but you still ask you questions about this and that, asking you about, can you explain a certain topic again in a little bit more detail? What it means is that your SIM is not complete yet. Okay, so it might be about 80% complete, but it's not 100%. 100% SIM is when the materials given to the students, they can learn it without having to go and ask you again. Okay. All right. So any question about this? Yeah. So for those who are online, if you have any question, just put it in. If it's there, wait a second. Okay. All right. So and when we talk about documentation wise, so to say the Quran or the Bible about the ODL program and conventional program. So and both of these programs or both of these documents was developed by MQA. Okay, so you can simply just Google COPA, and then put in MQA, and then you should be able to go to MQA website and then download the document. Or for ODL, you can just type in COPA ODL, put in MQA in there, then you can also get the document. Okay, and the document is very long. There's how many sections? 7 sections, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and each section talks about individual things. Some of them are related to the program, some are related to how the university provide facility for ODL program. So it covers a lot of things. And to the end of the day, if you were to offer an ODL program, it's similar to how you actually prepare your PISA document for your conventional program. Okay, so that's why if you have a conventional program, okay, and then you take that it is suitable to actually convert your conventional program into an ODL, because perhaps it's mostly on coursework. Okay, so there's no laboratory elements, there's no studio elements, there's no internship. Okay, so it's just purely on coursework. So these are the types of program that you can easily just convert. Okay, so even for in MQA, there's two categories. Okay, so category number one is when you have an old program, whether it's already it's still being offered or it's no longer being offered, but now your university asks each faculty to provide an ODL program. Okay, but you already have an old program that you no longer offering it, perhaps because there's no takers or something else, whatever the reason might be. So, but the document is there. So what you can do is simply just take back the document, open it back, and then transfer it into COPA style. Okay, so that's the fast track if you want to do any fast track offering a program. Okay, so that is category one. So you have the old one, and then you put it in, develop a new one. And category one is normally faster for approval even at MQA level because they already have all the records, they already have all the documents on their side, so they can easily just do a comparison between what you have offered previously and what you're offering now. Okay, so that's category number one. Category number two is where you want to develop a new program. Okay, so a new program where MQA doesn't have any record on that particular program. So this type of program for ODL might take a longer process because to the end of the day, MQA needs to look at every single details. Okay, whether the program is actually good, what is your justification, what are your survey that has been done. Okay, but if it's an old program, pretty much all the basic data is already there. You still need to do some other updates like survey and to see whether the program is still viable for Malaysian system or international system and why you want to do it. But nonetheless, this is one of the pathway that you can do. Okay. All right. And if you want to compare between this COPA and ODL documentation, so and if you have had any experience in reading the conventional COPA, preparing your documents for your program, okay. So what you need to highlight is looking at these specific three areas. Area number one, area number three, and area number five. While the other areas are more or less the same. Okay, so there's not much different. There are differences a little bit here and there, but nonetheless, it's not as big as area 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so these are the three main areas that if you want to provide or prepare a ODL program, and in terms of the documentation preparation, these are the three areas that you need to really look into. And these are the three areas that normally MPA will look into and see whether you are actually ready or not. Okay. Is UIA SWA or not? For accreditation? Used to be SWA. Okay. So if you're not SWA, then there's more work to be done because MPA will look at every single detail, look at your platform, and one of these three areas is basically on student support system. Okay. So what you have now for conventional cannot be simply translated into ODL. Okay. So say for example, all universities, all public universities, we have our own library. In our library, we might have every single document related to all the programs within that is being offered by the university. But somehow the documents are not usable. Okay. It's a hard copy. Okay. And then, so if you want to prepare an ODL program, but you don't have the resources to support the digital learning, then you'll be in trouble. Okay. So these are some of the questions that the MQ may ask you. So whether you are ready in terms of the digital library, what will happen? Because based on COVID, if you have read some articles or some newspapers, part of the complaints by students is that learning alone is stressful. Okay, so there could be some mental health issues. So what or how does the university prepare students for this particular aspect? Okay, so now if you have a program, you are offering it, students take it up. So in comparison to MC, so those who are taking MC is not your student. Okay, technically they are not your student. But those who are actually taking ODL, they are officially your student. Okay, so you need to take care of your student. So how would you take care of their mental health? So these are again something that MPA might ask. Okay, and therefore you need to structure. Of course, this it depends on, so CPD. This is mostly on CPD. How you actually prepare your ODL platform or center to cater all these other things. Okay, so the program itself is more or less easier to do, because if you have the contents from your conventional program, you can just translate it into ODL by just adding the SIM element. Okay. All right. So understanding the ODL principle, there's three criteria. So number one, what are the core principles? Number two, theories and development related to ODL. And number three, visuals. Okay, so these are the three main principles. So the core principles is, as we've seen previously, number one is flexibility, number two is access, number three is multiple modes. So in terms of the flexibility, the concept, again, this is because it's an introduction, so I'm just going back to the basic concept. Okay. So the concept is basically for the students to learn anywhere and anytime. Okay. Conventional ones, you can, it's normally between 8 to 5 or 8 to 6, or sometimes 8 to 8:30 or 9 at night. But for ODL, you need to think about, because MQA says that 80% is the minimum for SIM, right? So you have the luxury of 20% to do any face-to-face meetings, lectures, tutorials. Okay, so if you plan on doing this, you need to think about whether it's suitable. So who are your audience? Where are they from? So these are the things that normally for conventional program we take things for granted, because normally for UA our students are from local, only from Malaysia. We do have international, but only a very minority, but mostly are students. And they will be in the campus. They will be on campus to do their teaching learning. But for ODL, now the student can be anywhere. They can be from Oman, for example, or they can be somewhere in Middle East, somewhere in US. So if you were to do the remaining 20% of SLT as a face-to-face online session, then you need to think about that. How do you actually engage the student? Whether you need to do, say, 3 different time zones, different times, 3 different slots, or perhaps you do just 1 slot. Okay, but if you do it 1 slot, what will be the best time? So these are the things that you need to consider when you are designing your own program. Okay, so flexibility. Okay, so number 2, access. So as I also mentioned, ODL is more on learner center or student center. You need to focus on the students. For us, for now, it's just a lot of documentations, preparation of SIMs before we actually develop our own program. But once it is done, it depends on how you actually want to do it. Normally, your workload is now less. Okay? So you don't have to teach them anymore because everything is sim ready. So the learner center concept is focused on preparing things, but let the students actually do it. Okay? Learn it on their own. So say, for example, your program is 1 credit. Okay, so 1 credit, you have 14 learning hours. So even though you might split it into 14 weeks, okay, but say, for example, your students is a working adult, or perhaps a footballer, okay, where they need to train a lot for competition, this and that, and then they only have like a month to actually relax and do a recovery. So if your ODL program is designed for a proper autonomy, where you might also adapt 100% SIM, instead of 80%, you might adapt 100% SIM. So your student can have the autonomy to learn whatever they want to learn. Okay, so they can learn it before they want to sleep, study for 1 or 2 hours every night, and then they can finish in a week for all your 14 hours of learning. Okay, or you want to take some of the autonomy and make sure that your students actually understand by doing some tutorial. Okay, so Prof. Andy from Help, he is now the VC of Help University. He was one of the original developer for ODL, the early adapters of ODL. So when he came to last time, what he suggested was for the remaining 20% of your sim element, it must not be a lecture. Okay, it must not be a learning material. So all the learning materials should have already been or designed as a sim, so that when you meet the students, you can always straight away engage to see what is the student understanding, okay, whether they understand it or they have any issues in terms of some of the components that towards the end of the day you can take the feedback, improve, and then offer with an improved version the next time semester or year. Okay, and multiple modes covers on the technological integration, where you need to use multiple digital tools to actually enhance learning. Okay? So you don't simply just do PowerPoint like what I'm doing now. I actually plan to do more things, but I don't have enough time to actually do a lot more. So that's why we only have one at the very beginning. So my idea is originally we have multiple games in the middle. To do more on sim section, but I don't actually have had enough time to actually complete everything. But nonetheless, that is something that you need to prepare. Okay, so you need to prepare multiple tools. For example, all UA in Asia, we are using Google as our base, right? So, and if you recall, one of the questions I asked you, which one is the best ODL platform? And the only one correct answer is Moodle. Why do you think that is? Anyone have a guess?
Open source.
Exactly, it's an open source. What about open source? It's free. Okay, because the directive of the Ministry of Higher Education is for all public university to adapt an open course, open software for our LMS. Okay, so that's a directive comes down from the ministry. Okay, so that's why even though the other three platforms you can actually do ODL, Coursera, you can do it. There's no issue. Even Microsoft Teams, you can actually do it. But to the end of the day, the directive from the ministry is for us to have our own open software for our teacher learning. Okay, so that's why Moodle is the only way. And if you're looking at Moodle itself, what version of Moodle are you guys using now? Do you know? 4 or 3? 3. Okay. So 3. 319. Okay. So you can go to 4 if you do have the capacity to do it. But inside your even 3 is bare minimum, you already have all the technological tools that you need to actually develop a proper ODL program or courses inside your LMS. Okay. So next interactive media, for example, H5P. Anyone have been using H5P before? H5P. Tahu tak H5P? Tahu. Anyone have used H5P before? No? Online? Anyone has used H5P? Oh, let's chat here. Okay, so for ODL program, and if you were to develop based on Moodle, H5P is your best friend. You definitely need to use H5P. There's no other way. Or you can use Edpuzzle, for example, and do embedding. But then Edpuzzle is again a third party that you need to pay to actually use their platform. Okay, so if you were to use what is the directive from the ministry, which is free, then Moodle is the only way, and then H5P is your best friend. Okay, so you definitely need to use H5P. If you have not used H5P, learn on how to use it before you actually develop an ODL program. That would be much easier. And of course, there are certain Web 2.0 that you can embed in your Moodle. Okay, so I can show some examples on how we have developed our own courses after this. Okay, all right. So aspect number 2 and 3, theories and development. Mostly, number 1, looking at the historical context, okay, in terms of theory and development. So, in terms of the evolution from the correspondent process to modern e-learning. So again, goes back to what I've said previously, moving from PJJ into ODL online version. Okay, so it is still there. Everything is there. There's nothing that we actually cut other than changing from a hard copy to a soft copy version. Okay, so it's mostly because of the internet. Our internet is getting better, especially in Malaysia and all UA. We have our own network system by the KPT. Okay, so there's no issue to utilize the old PJ approach. Okay, and of course, towards the end of the day, if you were to do an ODL, it is more significant to our old, current modern society, okay? Where the younger generation now, they are growing older. Okay? Like myself, I was taught using computers since I was 7. Okay, so this is me, and my son now was taught on how to use iPad since he was 7. Okay, so you can see the evolution of the not to say the community. The generation now has moved from pen and paper to more digitalized learning. So this is where university needs to move forward. So we can still offer our conventional, but nonetheless, we cannot avoid from offering micro-credential and ODL. But whether towards the other day it will work or not, only time will tell. Okay, because if you so there's one viral video on Facebook last time where there's this lawyer showcasing on the evolution of things. For example, before we have a mobile phone, we have a land phone. Before land phone, we have mail. Before mail, we have telegram. Okay, so that's evolution. And then there's evolution on visual for teacher learning. Okay, before this, we have pen and paper. Before even that, during the early days, it's more on pen and paper or lecturer just talking and then students just writing without any visual aids. And then there's visual aids. We have OHP, then we have PowerPoint. Now we have Canva and whatnot. What the student now is using. Okay, so these are the evolution. But when we go into teaching and learning, the evolution is very, very minimal. Okay, so how do you evolve from the conventional way of teaching and learning that we have done for the past, 100 years, okay, into a more modern society? So that's when I think ODL MC is. But whether to the other day it will can push forward or not, we have no idea. Okay, because internet is there. Even if you prepare your ODL program, YouTube is always there, and all the online resources is there where people can just simply learn online. Let me just stop for a while and see if there's any question. Can we adapt textbook instead of SIM for ODL courses? Okay, now, as I mentioned, okay, it's actually there. Okay, so it's either visual, where we need to evolve from simply using pen and paper into more digitalized tools. Okay, so when we say digitalized tools, if you just convert a textbook into another online textbook, are you evolving anything? Is there any revolution? Is there any okay? So there's no evolution at all. So that's when SIM is there. So a textbook is already a SIM on its own. So instead of just taking all the textbook and then copy and paste it to your LMS, what you need to do is to actually look at which section of the textbook is more on instruction, which are the content, and which are important, which are less important. So you can use a textbook and then adapt the textbook into a SIM. But nonetheless, the SIM must be there. Because as I mentioned at the very beginning, students learn not just by reading. Some are auditory, some are visual, some read better, some can just learn by just listening because they have a good imagination. Okay, so to just simply adapt textbook into your LMS for the current ODL system, for me, it's a bit. You definitely will get a lot of complaints. That's one of the complaints that we received from our first cohort of ODL students. So there's some courses that had too many texts instead of visual, instead of audio. So we receive comments based on that. So towards the end of the day, you need to mix and match. Okay. So using one approach only is not no longer sufficient. You need to definitely have a mix. Of course, towards the end of the day, if you can prepare a full text, a full video, a full audio, and the full images synchronously, meaning that the same material, you have it in text, you have it in visual, you have it in audio, that would be best. Okay, so for those who actually likes to read textbook, they can just read the whole textbook. For those who actually likes to just do listening and then look at a visual, they can do that. Okay, so basically, it depends on how you want to prepare it, because the more things that you need to do, the more time it takes for you to prepare things. Right? So that's why I understand it's easier to just take a textbook, especially if you have developed your own textbook for your own program, then just take a textbook and then put it in. That's the easiest way. But to the end of the day, if you want to get a good valuation, and especially for you to be able to answer MQA easily, definitely you need to have a mix. Okay, because in Copa ODL, they also highlight the different modes of delivery. Okay, so if you can convince MQA to give you accreditation just based on textbook, be my guess, you can. But my suggestion is to do a mix and match. Okay, but nonetheless, you can always put your textbook as part of reference into your LMS. There's no issue there. Okay. All right. So moving on to digital tools. There's, of course, to the end of the day, due to the online nature of ODL, we definitely need to have a proper LMS. Okay? On how you prepare your LMS, it's up to you. It's up to your university. It's up to how, where do you want to position your ODL. If you want to position your ODL just for, say, for example, Malaysian in Klang Valley, okay, meaning that you perhaps can just integrate your content into your existing LMS. Okay, because to the end of the day, those who are already in Klang Valley, you have a proper, faster internet connection to your own internal server. But if you want to position your LMS program, if you want to position your ODL program for internationals, then perhaps you will need to think bigger. Whether to use, say, for example, telecom Malaysia service to host on the cloud, okay, whether host it locally or host it in a different country. So these are the things that you need to think about. Okay? And the tinkering is not just for you as the course developer or the program developer. It must be a synchronous relationship between the developer or the experts and the ODL center in the university. Okay? So the university must have a clear directive. Where do you want to go? Who are your targets? And what programs that you want to bring as the first few programs? Because towards the end of the day, the programs that you're offering, the first few programs that you're offering will reflect on the whole ODL program in the future. Okay? So if your ODL program is good, then people will go and say, oh, go and take an ODL program from UAE. It's a very good ODL program. So the more program that you're offering, people will know more better. Okay? Because now, when you're talking about online education, you need to compete not just between Indonesia, we need to compete throughout the world. Okay? So that's something that you need to think about. So to the end of the day, your LMS must include your course management as what you have done for blended learning. Okay, so to include communication, how do you actually communicate with the students? Because now your students are not here. You might not have their own personal mobile number. Okay, so how do you actually communicate? You want to communicate by email. You want to communicate via forum inside your LMS. Whether you want to have an AI element inside your LMS or not. Okay, so meaningful communication is also important, okay, especially because the student will not be here. So how do you actually engage with the student in the first place? Okay, so they might see your advertisement somewhere saying that UAE is offering an ODL program. This one of these programs is interested. So he or she went to UAE website, register for your ODL, but then how does the student, or to whom the student can contact with? Okay? Who will be the person in charge? Whether it is the admission unit or whether it's the PTJ or whether it's CPD. Okay, so these are the things that needs to be designed and taken care in the first place. And then due to the advancement of AI, again, assessment is one of the biggest issues. So how do you want to create an assessment for those who are online so that cheating can be minimized? Okay, because if you just simply use what we have in our LMS, like quiz element, right? So they can simply just copy and paste the question, put it into ChatGPT, for example, ask ChatGPT for answers. Okay? So how do you balance out students' learning and how do you access them? If you just simply do how we have been doing pre-COVID, doing quizzes on our LMS and whatnot, definitely, if you just simply do that, even if I were to take your course and did not go through all your elements, I can still pass and get my certificate, my degree or diploma or whatever it is. Okay, so these are something which is very, very big. Even in UM, we still have an issue on how to actually address this assessment criteria. So for now, what I'm suggesting to all the program owners are basically on to adapt alternative assessment. So we don't use any quizzes, elements, no more essays. Okay, ChatGPT can just simply create an essay for you, regardless of whether there's AI detection tool. If you actually into technology, you can bypass all those very, very easily. So no MCQ, no essay. So what else can you do? Because these two are the big ones that we have used pre-COVID and especially pre-AI. But now because of the AI, how do you actually move forward? How do you actually change your assessment from an original into a more settings where you can actually see the students' performance? Okay. Alright, so LMS example, you have Moodle, Blackboard, Brightspace, you can combine Coursera, edX, Fisherlearn, and YouTube, and YouTube can be part of it. Okay, and in terms of the content delivery platforms, it depends on, again, how the university provides the space. Whether you want to host everything inside the university. So if, say, for example, you are offering originally one program, it might not be an issue where you can just keep every single videos, audios, recordings and whatnot inside your server, internal server. But once you go into more and more programs, how do you actually cater for the storage, okay? The bandwidth that students want to access. So these are the criteria that you need to think about. So for us, we have decided to host the materials, just use YouTube. Okay, so it's easier. Just use YouTube. And then we can combine with H5P, where you can take the YouTube link, put it into H5P, and this is where you can actually modify your recording to embed more sim element inside your own video. Because YouTube itself is just, YouTube. The only breaks that you see in YouTube are advertisement nowadays. Okay, so there's no question and answers. So if you embed H5P into your YouTube video, advertisement so far I have not seen any. Okay, but you can also embed either quizzes inside there. You can embed questionnaires. You can ask for feedbacks inside your video, so your student can actually engage with the video. So there's a lot of things that you can do. So I'm just saying a few things. So, but H5P itself is massive. There's so many things that you can do in H5P. Of course, there's so much thing that you can do inside Moodle as well that people hardly use, but you can do the same thing for H5P. Okay, so and you can, if you have any MC credential courses that you have developed, that can also be part of your content, your content for your ODL course. Okay, so say for example, in UM, our MC is being cut even smaller pieces. So normally when we're talking about micro-credential, say for example, if one course we have 3 CLOs, so normally one CLO is 1 MC, right? So you have 3 CLO, then you have 3 MC. But in UM, what we did is we cut it even further. So if, say for example, one CLO can be further separated into 2, so we will develop two smaller MCs. Okay, and then this smaller MCs is easily fit into your own course for ODL instead of one big one. Because one big one MC normally is 14 weeks or 14 hours. Because it's one CLO, and then especially if, say for example, the course is 3 credits, and then 3 credits has 3 CLOs, so normally one CLO is 1 credit, so one topic is 14 hours. Okay, so you can't simply just copy and paste whatever MC that you have developed into ODL courses. So in UM, we shrink it even further, we size it even further so that you can easily take some pieces and then you can put it in. So that's how we actually do it. Okay, so what else? In terms of digital tools, practical proficiency is also part of the consideration where you need to have an interactive platform. So interactive platform over here takes into 2 considerations. The teacher themselves, because you need to prepare the interactive platform. If you have not used it, then definitely you need to learn. Because if you don't know how to use it, definitely you will not use it. And if you don't use it, then therefore to the other day, your student will not use it as well. Okay. So you can put in elements such as real-time quizzes, you can put forum, you can put chat space, you can use example using Kahoot, H5P, and Puzzle. You can put in Zoom if you want to do an online session and then put in questions inside there. Okay, Microsoft Teams and so on and so forth. Okay. So these are just some of the considerations. Because this is an introduction. And of course, to the end of the day, it depends on your program that you want to design. Perhaps that program can be used to include some emerging technologies such as VR or AR or XR or mixed reality. Okay, so and to the day, due to the advancement of AI, you might want to put AI as your personal tutor for that particular course. Okay, like for example, anyone know about Khan Academy? Yep, Khan Academy. Have you ever enrolled in the Khan Academy at all? Okay, so what Khan Academy have done is pretty much they put in an AI as a tutor for that particular course. So we are now competing not just within Malaysia, but internationally. So some have done even better job in putting excluding human touch at all, where they put just AI. Okay, and then AI in the Khan Academy is when the AI reads the script. So say for example, you're learning something, right? And then at the end of the learning, there's a short Q&A session, quiz perhaps. And then the student answer it wrongly. Okay? But instead of providing you feedback, as what we normally do is if a student answers something wrong in our Moodle LMS, we normally provide the answer, like a description that this is the correct answer because of this and this. But what Khan Academy did was instead of giving an explanation, they provide how do I say this? A link where the student can go back and revise on that particular section. Okay, so that they can go back, relearn, and then retry and reattempt on answering the quiz. And if they still don't get it right, they can always click on the AI element so that the AI can help he or she, the student, to convey or to process the same element and the quiz. Okay, so you need to. It's pretty difficult to explain on how to actually do it. So you can just search for this right now. Do it after this. Khan Academy AI explainer. Okay, so they actually provided like a very short video on how the AI actually works. It's fascinating. Okay, so that is something that we and you have envisaged to do it. But whether we have the capacity or not, it's a different story. Okay, so designing materials for ODL. This is the flow chart: planning and design, development, production, delivery, and evaluation. So it's more or less like It's more or less like how you prepare micro-credential. But micro-credential is easier because it's just a small section of a course. And if you want to provide or develop MC based on the course that you are now teaching, then it's easier. But if you want to prepare an ODL, because ODL is a program, and therefore it involves not just one lecturer or two lecturers, it involves multiple lecturers, there are multiple programs, multiple courses, multiple topics. So the planning is more difficult because you need to make sure that everybody is following what COPA ODL says. Even if one doesn't follow and then MQA managed to catch that one, and you don't have a proper explanation on why you actually do the course a certain way, not following what COPA is asking you to, then it will be a bit more difficult. Okay, so for me, I created this word, this quotation. Okay, designing ODL program is like planning a road trip. Okay, so when you go, especially if you want to go to a road trip outside of Malaysia, where it involves a lot of cost, it involves a lot of time, so you need to plan it properly. Okay, and in terms of the plan, sin is your right. So you plan, first day you want to go here, and then you want to do this and this and this and this. The cost is related to activity number one on day one. Okay, so that's how you actually plan a road trip, a proper road trip. Of course, you can just do and be done for a journey road trip. You just go and see what is happening or environment of that particular area, and then you just go to that one thing. But for ODL, it must be properly planned. Without proper planning, especially because you are no longer accredited institution, then there's more stringent requirement from MQA. Okay, so and C is your plan. So when you do your planning, things that you need to consider is definitely number one, your learner's profile. Who are they? Okay, so of course, to you if what you are planning and what is the current scenario can also be different. You might want to plan just for local Malaysian students, for example, where that's why you design it so that your sim is only 80% and then 20% is for you to do a live tutorial. And somehow, once you started to offer, you might receive an audience from, say, Indonesia or even in the UK, where the timeline, the time allocated for your face-to-face section is now is a bit haywire because of this. Okay, so you need to think about where do you want to target, who are the audience, okay, what are their profile, are they a fresh grad, are they person who have worked in a certain area for a certain years, and then the ODL program is just for them to learn a little bit more based on what they have learned, or is it something else altogether? Okay, so whether your audience, say if your program like background is chemistry, if I were to develop an ODL program based on chemistry, so my learners profile must be those who are working in the chemistry field. They cannot just simply be from education, for example. Okay, so even if the education wants to learn something about chemistry so that they can adapt the knowledge itself in the learning. Okay, but is my program suitable for that particular person? Okay. So in UM, we decided to have our own our ODL program just catered towards adults, adults that have worked. Okay, so it's no longer undergraduates who just graduated. It's more on learners who have worked. So the program is more centered towards specific tools, specific usage, and you don't really cover all the basic requirements again. Okay, because some master's program, they kind of like do a revision on what the undergraduate program is, undergraduate knowledge is, so that they can build up and do a refresher and then do a additional build up of knowledge. But in ODL program in UM, we decided to just focus on what's next. Okay, so if say for example in engineering we have MC is health science. It's the longer name for MC. Okay, remember. So it's a master program on occupational health and safety. Okay, so those who are taking this program, is designed for those who are working in the industry and industry alone. If you are just an engineer in a university, you are not fit to take this particular program. Okay? Because the program is specific on industrial problem in factories, for example. Okay? So it depends on what is your who are the leaders that you want to target. And then the second one, moving to how you plan your curriculum, what will be your learning outcomes? What will be the outline for the whole program? And then individual course, how do you apply it? So it goes back to how you prepare your normal conventional program. But now you need to do it considering that the students that are learning your ODL program will learn it as online 100%. They will no longer see you face to face. They can't ask you questions. They can still ask you, they can still bother you, WhatsApp you at night, but whether you actually want to entertain them or not. Okay? So these are the things that you need to plan. Existing materials, whether it's there, whether you can reuse it, whether you need to do some modification. If you have a lot of pre-recorded videos, are the videos enough for you to use as a sim? Or whether you need to extract some components of the video, cut it short, and then develop a new component for sim. Okay, so these are things that you need to consider. Multimedia mix and interactive multimedia. Again, the newer generations, I mean, even if it's an ODL program, there will be people around our age. Okay, so we are more technologically educated. So we know how to use iPad. We know how to use your phones. So having an interactive lecture so that towards the end of the day, the learners will come back to your program. Okay? So that's the difference in comparison to your conventional. Okay? So conventional, we have our lecture, and all universities requires that students come into lecture, especially in Malaysia, take attendance to make sure to force students to actually come to class. But for ODL, you cannot force them. You cannot take attendance because to the end of the day, the attendance is on their own. Okay? So it's a learner's approach. They have the autonomy where they want to learn. Attendance, they'll do it on their own, whether they want to listen to all the and then take the final exam, or they just go over there and on, just take the final exam. So these are all the autonomy that is given to them. So how do you actually design so that your lecture is interesting enough that the learners will come back and listen to your material? So how do you actually communicate with the students? These are some of the things that, or how can you actually track whether the students have watched your materials or not? Okay, so these are considerations that you need to do. And finally, on the learner support, I will touch about this in the next few slides. Okay, so learner support is also part of the important things that you need to prepare for an ODL program. Okay, can you see? Oh, somehow it's longer than expected. Okay, moving to one slide. Okay, so planning is just preparing on paper. Okay, how do you actually now transform what you have planned into the course itself? Okay, so the development. So you need to have instructional design. Do you have a background of instructional design? If you don't, then perhaps the university have someone that does have instructional design education. Okay, or if you don't, then perhaps CPD can begin organize what is instructional design to help the lecturers, those who are not exposed on how to actually do this, okay? On to actually be able to do it before they can't do it previously. Okay, so in terms of writing and reviewing, on how do you actually write it? Okay, so when we write instructional materials for courses for ODL, for example, it's not on how you actually write a research article. Okay, research article is normally straight to the point, straight to the content. You skip here and there, you skip all the teeny-miny bits of information. However, for ODL, what you want is you want it to be as easy as possible. Okay, so instruction is there. It's like the student is in front of you, how would you communicate with the student? You might say, hello, good morning, how are you? Okay. So these are all the teeny minor things in terms of communication that you need to include as part of your SIP component in doing your writing. And of course, when you do a reviewing itself, sometimes when you do something for too long, everything is like, tattoo. Okay? So you say this so much, you will see there's an error. You think that, oh, this is the best, this is actually good, the flow is nice, but towards the end of the day, when the learner comes in, they say that, oh, they don't understand, they don't know how to do it. They don't know this, they don't know that. Okay? So towards the end of the day, I think the support system, especially for the reviewing section, is very, very important. Either you get your other colleagues to review how you have done it, okay? Or perhaps the central administration provide a platform for you to submit your course, and then they will review it and give suggestions. Okay? So these are up to the organization. And to say, when you're doing a video or audio, for example, if you do a audio recording, especially like me over here, I'm not sure whether the fan noise is actually being recorded as well. Okay, so these are some of the consideration, because when you want to give your students, especially those who are auditory, they want to listen something or knowledge as a podcast level. Okay? So normally a podcast level, there's no background noise, the voice is very, very clear. Okay, so these are some of the consideration. If you just simply record it using your phone, for example, you record it outdoor. Okay, so this place is very quiet, so perhaps you can record it here. But like in UM, for example, our roads are very busy. So the studio that we have, sometimes people would, if they just walk past the studio, the audio of people walking can actually be captured inside our recording. So when we do some editing, there's a lot of things that we need to do. We need to, reduce the background noise. And sometimes if you reduce the background noise, the voice itself is being reduced, it's being disturbed. So we need to do it within the recording. So development takes so long because of this tiny bit, that if you plan it from the very beginning, then it makes life even easier. Okay? And of course, at the end of the day, editing is the most time consuming. Recording, preparing the documents can be done within 1 month. Okay, especially if the program has been offered previously, then documentation is very, very quick. The content itself can also be very, very quick. The SIP preparation can also be very quick, because now you have AI. You can always use AI to generate on all the SIM elements. Okay, so it's very, very easy. But when you do a video recording, so editing parts is very, very difficult. How do you want to make sure that the editing is good enough and it's good towards the standards of the whole program? Because in one program, you might have, say, if it's a 42, it's a master program, 42 credit hours, we have about 18 or so courses. How do you make sure that the quality of the video between all courses are up to the standard? Okay, so that's why I say editing is the most time consuming. Even for us, this is the most tedious. There's a lot of back and forth between us and the developer. So, to the end of the day, it depends on the university, it depends on the CPD. What will be your standard? So, if your standard is actually okay lah, because there's no KPI, there's no directive, and there's no extra fund to build a new studio that is very, very good. Okay? So, it depends on a lot of things, a lot of factors. If you just want to have, the goal is for us to provide one ODL by end of 2024, for example, and we only have about 6 months or so, then you just want to, push everything, make sure that everything is there, then, quality might be something that you don't want to consider to have the highest standard. Okay, so, yeah. Right, and then next, once you have all the materials ready, you want to produce it, you want to put it now into your LMS, your system. What will be your course layout? Okay, how do you want to provide a layout? Okay, and then why is course layout is important? Because again, a course layout is uh, designed specifically for that particular course by you as the course owner. So what if you have multiple courses? Again, going back to program, so you definitely have multiple courses. How do you make sure that the standards, there are standards for every single course? It must be started off with this way, and then followed by this, followed by this, followed by this. Okay, so the standard must be there to make sure that students, when they learn, when they take your program, they go through one course at a time, they will not get lost. Okay, they will always know this is the first thing that you need to do, and then this is where you click the next button. Okay? And for all courses, it should be similar until the person complete the whole program. So they cannot be, because I am more technological advanced, I want to do it this way, and then someone else thinks that, oh, I'm not that technology savvy, I want to do it textbook style, for example, just do a full textbook from, and then the student is to scroll for 2 weeks until they reach the end of the book. Okay, so the standard must be that, and then this standard is normally set by the university or by the CPD, the unit. Okay, and of course, facility. There's two sides: the facility provided by the faculty and the facility provided by the central university. Okay, like library is the central university's responsibility. But what about student welfare? Does it fall under the faculty or does it fall under the central administration? So again, it depends on each university. So if you decided on all of these things, certain things is the central unit's responsibility, then be my guest. And only things related to teaching and learning falls under the responsibility of the PPJ or the faculties. Like, for example, if students cannot access the learning platform, the learning management system, LMS, who should the student talk to? Should the student talk to the lecturer, the faculty, the over there we have Pusat Teknologi Maklumat. So do they talk to the IT unit, or do they talk to CPD? Do they talk to what will be the platform? Okay, so these are again the things that needs to be clear from the very beginning. Otherwise, people will say, "Oh, that's your responsibility." But the other one will say, "Oh, that's your responsibility." Okay, and this thing happens in UM. When we started off offering our ODL program, because UM initially we don't have any ODL center. So ODL center was, it's not a new unit. If you go to UKM, for example, they have their own ODL center. In UM, we don't have an ODL center. So what we do is we divided the task that is normally being handled by an ODL center into either a central unit or a faculty unit. Okay, so that's and central unit, there's multiple units. Okay, for example, we centralize all admission into one unit, and only one unit, regardless of what program you are taking. Your admission, your visa, and everything is being handled by this only one unit. But for UKM, for example, the conventional students have their own admission unit, ODL have their own, and then MC have their own. So the structure is different. So it depends on how the structure is in UIA. That is also something that needs to think about. And then based on the structure of the university, because you know university better, then the task that is needed for the development of ODL program must be clearly defined. Who will take care of this? Who will take care of that? Okay. One example that happened in UM is orientation. Okay. So in UIA, who handles your students' orientation? Is it under TNCA or HPP or a different TNC? Sorry? Academic registry. So academic registry, is it under student welfare? Under TNCA, okay. So in UM, orientation is handled by our students' affairs. Okay, so it's not handled by our TSC Academy. So when we first offered this ODL program, because there's a directive saying that all orientation should be handled by the students welfare division. Okay. Not so it's the student division, AGP, student kawal pelajar. Okay. So all orientation is handled by that. But when we offer ODL program, we have no idea how to actually handle it because they handle the face-to-face students. They never actually handle an online student. So how do we actually do it? Okay, so in the first semester that we prepare this to a degree because our HCP have no idea on how to do it. They pass it back to us, and then because we don't have the manpower and we never actually handle orientation, there's this like a lot of big talk. This is your job. And then the employer say, oh, but this student is your job. We have no idea how to actually do it. So, towards the end of the day, because the program is being offered by the faculties, then the faculties is the okay, so because like that, and then once the semesters keeps on running, the faculties now keep on complaining. They open back all the old documentation saying that orientation must be handled by the kawal pelajar. So now, for this coming session, the kawal pelajar must also do orientation for ODL. Okay, so these are something like because to the day, the restructuring of caused these issues to happen. Originally, ODL should be done by only one unit, including all the admission, registration, costing, program development, cost development, graduation, and whatnot. It should be handled by UMC-SET. If you have heard about UMC-SET, it should be handled by UMC-SET alone. But due to reorganization of the whole university, so UMC-SET now, instead of being a standalone unit, it is now part of a faculty in UM. So they cannot have their own registration, they cannot have their own money, they cannot have this and that. So that's when all these ODL things become a bit haywire. Okay, so my suggestion is since you don't have any ODL program yet, so you need to make sure that you convey this to your top management, saying that the structure must be clear, so that once you start offering the ODL program, it will be smooth sailing. Okay. And of course, so that's also another issue. Because once we develop our ODL program, so this session, we offered 5 programs. But when the program was developed, it was under EDAC. So EDAC is just like not like it's probably like Dr. Malik CD. We are just handling on the development of SIP content. That's it. Just the SIP content. We are not looking at all the mission. We are not looking at promotion. We are not looking at marketing. We are not looking at student graduation. We are not looking at services. We are not looking at the support. Just this. Okay. So once we develop this program, we finish our task. So we pass it back to originally UMC-SET and the faculty. But because they don't know what to do, due to the restructuring and the hearsay about restructuring, they tend to they didn't do any promotion, they didn't do any marketing, they didn't do this and that. So for our first batch of this 5 program, we only have 20 students. It's very, very small. But because of this, but now ODL has been put under me, so I need to re-strategize, reorganize, looking at how we actually do everything from A to Z. And we are hoping that in the next coming session, our target is close to 100 students minimum. Yeah. And by the new session, we should have 8 programs running. Yeah, instead of really 5. Okay. Right. Hopefully that answers the question. But of course, to the end of the day, it depends on the original plan because you haven't started. So you have time to actually plan. Who are your audience? Like in our case, we like in my case, because I just took the menu of ODL from someone else. I have no idea about what was the original plan of ODL. Okay? Who are the targets? Whether they are targeting just the Malaysian students, Malaysian population, or they are targeting international. So these are all the basic information that I have no idea. And even going back to UMC set and asking them for paperwork and whatnot, the team that originally planned for ODL is no longer there. So everybody have moved out and worked somewhere else. So and we have this basic information. So since that's happened, our TNC give the directive for me to actually do everything from scratch, do it properly, so that we follow through ODL, do all proper documentation, so that even if that in the future the ODL center will be put in into someone else's banner, then we have all the records. Okay, so since you haven't started, then it's great. Yes, sir.
So I just want to ask, based on your assessment now that you wanted to where and you had 20 students with so those students for which process they did.
So
that
okay, so we decided the only thing that is very clear for our ODL program is we only focus for now on postgraduate and master's coursework only. So it's a very niche area. And why do we focus on this? It's basically because this program is easier. You can convert 100% to SIM, right? Because it's mostly on theoretical. So you can convert 100% to SIM. The program normally is already there. So it's easier for you to convert. You just focus on the three areas, area 1, area 2, and area 5, as I just mentioned. Everything else is almost identical. You can just copy paste. And then another reason is because instead of having an ODL center that becomes the brain, the central point of deciding what program the university wants to offer, at we give this power, so to say, to the faculties. So faculties have the power to decide on, I want to bring this program. Okay, so it slightly different than how UKM is, because UKM has their own central unit, a big unit. So what they did was the unit handles on the planning, on the paperwork, and then they just engage with the faculties as an expert to develop some contents. Okay, so it depends on, again, how your structure is. In this is our structure. UKM is slightly different. I know USM is more or less the same as UKM. And why is having different structure? It's because so far doesn't have a central unit that handles PJJ, the old school ODL. We don't have that. While USM is the champion for PJJ, even way back. So they already have their own proper structure. They know how to do it. So it's easier for them to actually move forward. Okay. Okay.
The requirements for ODL, the country requirements, we require them for each. So if you have the convention of ODL is the program, you can have a 2 debt service requirement.
Yes.
You can have that.
Yep.
So that's the first one. The second one is based on the experience, what kind of support that postgraduate students would need, which is different from other conventional program. And
ODL. Okay, so question number 1, yes, you can have conventional and ODL program, even though they are almost similar, running simultaneously, because these two are 2 birth certificates. So anything that has 2 birth certificate, you can actually run it concurrently. And towards the end of the day, if MQA asks why do you have these 2 together, they can always give an explanation saying that the number of students taking up the conventional course is increasing, and you have a lot of requests to provide an online platform for this particular course, and you decided to do an online ODL as the kind of like younger brother or younger sister. Okay, so you can always use excuses to have 2 programs running. But of course, if you do have something that is almost identical, NQA will always ask you why. Yeah. So in UM, what we are doing, because the courses that we are transferring is all courses that is based on coursework. So there's no laboratory, there's no studio, there's no need for a lot of engagement between the teachers and the students. So once we have transferred to ODL, we will just close the conventional ones. Yeah. And another reason is because nowadays, if you see newspapers, there's a lot of complaints about lecturers having too much work, right? So this is one way the university is trying to cater this particular issue. So you develop the course, the program is still there. So we're not closing down the program, but we're just transferring the program to ODL so that you can close this. And ODL, once you have developed it as SIG, then the workload is now way lesser. Okay, because we have prepared it once, and then it's once every 5 years instead of every day to go and talk. Second question was about support. Okay, so the support that we provide is basically so far is help desk, and specifically the program coordinator plays a very, very important role. So program coordinator is like a oldest brother or oldest sister for all the students. So they will be the main point if they have any questions. That's what we are providing. But of course, it is not up to how MQA wants. What MQA wants is a place where student can go and don't have to interact with any humans, but they still can get the information. That's what MQA wants. Why? Because they say that towards the end of the day, the ODL program shouldn't just be designed for Malaysians. So it can be, students from Saudi, for example, where they have a different time zone at all altogether. So if the students, while they are learning, they will text you, say at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, Malaysian time. So would you actually go and reply the message? Mostly not. Okay, so that's why MK suggested you should have a central support system. Okay, a support system where the students, regardless of where they are, they can always to communicate to someone or something and get the answer. Yeah. So what we are developing now is we are developing a one-stop center where this is a location where students can just go if they have any issues with either navigating the ODL, whether they have mental health issues, whether they just want to talk to someone, whether they need to know what are the other facilities the university provides, because now they are students learning in UM. So these are the things that we are providing now. It's not that we don't have it, we have it, but we have it separately. Like we have our UM digital library. So where they can just go to our UM library website, key in your student ID, they can log in, they can browse. I would say 80% of our library contents now online. But how do they actually do? How can they know that UM library provide this service without having a proper guide from the first place? So these are some that we are trying to develop to make sure that before the student starts their learning, the orientation is a bit more detailed. Is it more detailed than the conventional orientation? Conventional orientation is normally sometimes it's a bit vague because students can always come and then ask questions, but for ODL they cannot come. So we need to make sure that the orientation is as detailed as possible so that the student can just go to this particular location, one-stop center, they can just learn everything that helps them to complete the program. So that's what we are doing now. Okay. We have a few more slides. A lot more slides. We have the right slide. Why does it change? Okay, so in terms of delivery, what you need to consider is track record. How do you actually ensure that the students have indeed learned about what you have prepared? Okay, so what will be the track record? For Moodle, it's very easy. There's always what do you call it, completion status thing that you can use to keep track. Okay. And then to the end of the day, on how is the flow of the content is also part of things that you need to design and you need to decide and develop. Okay. I need to go faster because we don't have enough time. It's not that I cannot stay here, but I have an exam this afternoon, so I need to go back to ES. Okay. And then in terms of evaluation, again, this is I touched about this previously. So in the age of AI, how do you actually create a proper evaluation for students? Is it enough for just MCQ? Or is it enough for just for them to simply create an essay of say 700 words or 1,000 words? Okay. So at the end of the day, AI can develop all of this very, very easily. They can even, if say, for example, you provide lecture materials, okay, you can upload these lecture materials into ChatGPT or Bing or some other AI tools, and then put in the questions so that the answer that is being developed is based on the materials that you actually put in. So this is what can be done now. So myself, I've already avoided MCQ. I've already avoided all the writing style assessments. It's no more in any of my courses because of this. Okay. So what I moved to is I moved to alternative assessment, doing group projects, for example. Okay. So you learn about certain things, put them into groups, ask them to say prepare a poster or prepare a video or prepare a report writing, okay, based on a group work. So instead of now individual, where they can just simply go to ChatGPT as their partner and then ChatGPT will write everything. If you do it in groups, sometimes you have those students who are more ethical than others. Okay? So one person says, I want to use ChatGPT for everything. The other says, so this is unethical. We shouldn't do this. We should do it properly. Okay? So that's when peer assessment is more important. So you have an alternative assessment where you access the final output, but at the same time, you may have a peer assessment criteria as part of the marking criteria, whether it's involves teamwork or leadership, or it depends on your program. Okay, it depends on your course and how you design it. Okay. Good. And then in terms of evaluation, also it goes back to once you have prepared the course, students have gone through all the course content. How do you actually evaluate? How can they evaluate the content? Whether it's good, whether it's bad, how do they tell you? Because now the engagement between you as the course developer and student as the learners is now minimized. How can you receive feedback? So, and then if there's an assignment, how can the student actually receive feedback from the assignment? Because if you do face-to-face, normally, you can just go during the class and then you explain. So this should be it, this should be that, this should be this. But if you do it online, would you do it a personalized assessment feedback? If you do that, that will be time-consuming. If you don't do that, the student will not learn. So what will be the balance? Okay. So these are some things that we need to consider. And of course, towards the end of the day, the output rates. If your student number is small, then perhaps it's okay to have a personalized feedback. But if the student then grow into hundreds or even thousands, would you be still doing it? How do you keep your qualities maintained? So these are the things that we need to think about. And for us, what we are planning to do is just include an AI as part of the assessment criteria, so that the AI will learn on how you actually provide assessment feedback as a whole. Okay, and then based on students' answers. So at the end of the day, the AI will provide an automatic response answers based on the new assessment that is being submitted. Okay, it's more on AI thing. All right. So this is the support system. So there's 3 sections. Pre, the day that students have to have not started, during should have started, and then post what is needed after they have completed everything. Okay, so pre is basically looking at the essentials that must be put in place before they start their journey. And to answer what this particular question, there's only one thing that we need to do as a course developer, as the ODL center, which is to provide a proper orientation documents. Okay, as long as we have the proper ones, normally pre is already settled. But to get proper documentation, you need to have the proper setup in place. For example, if you're thinking about mental health issues, okay, is your health services now provides a consultation service? They might, but the consultation service is normally like in UM previously, it's just for face-to-face students. So, but how about ODL students? They still pay the same tuition fees. Will they get any advantage on that? So we are creating another path where they can just go online and talk to someone online. That is part of this healthcare service. Okay, so that's what we are doing. So getting all of these small things ready, and to the day as the central unit, combine them together into an orientation package is very important. Okay. All right, and during is basically looking at if students have problems, who should they talk to? Who should they contact? So who can assist them in doing what they need to do to complete their program? So again, this one, if you have prepared everything, the pre-preparation is very solid, then normally during has no issues. Okay, but nonetheless, you can create something like a specialized support system for one particular course, the course that you are teaching. You might perhaps put in your contact information. You might put in forum inside your own course. You might put in pre-assessment feedback. You might put in a feedback form for each after each sim. So your sim is developed, is separated normally for 14 weeks for one semester. You might want to have a feedback link for each individual weeks. That is an example. Okay. In terms of forum, what we are doing in UM is basically we have this feature called ODL Cafe. Okay, so ODL Cafe is where we kind of like ask the students to do a little bit of online ice breaking. So they tell the other students, the other learners where they are from, what they are doing, why they are doing this. So it depends on how you want to provide it. Then post to examine, once the student have completed, what will be the support needed. Okay, and particularly for post is quite easy because it's very similar to how professional programs are run. Meaning that what are the requirements for graduation? What can be done after graduation, whether they are alumni or not. So these are all on the post. Okay, so support system is a requirement for graduation. So there's two main things. One is later support system, another one is enhancing retention. So these are all put in the standards. You can see standard 3.1.5, requirement for orientation, developmental and remedial support by the university for the students. Standard 3.3.3 is where the program is actually for students to ensure that familiarity. So meaning that the students learn using one particular platform and one platform only. Okay, and they need to have a proper, how to say, guide on how the platform will run for all programs, for all courses. For our conventional, some lecturers like to use Google Classroom. Some lecturers like to use Microsoft Teams. Some will just use our own LMS. Okay, so there's multiple platforms, and it's okay because it's conventional. Students can always go and see the lecturers and ask questions. But for ODL, the idea is for the interaction between students and lecturers are minimized. There's no point of developing an ODL, but the interaction is still similar to conventional. Okay, So answering standard 3.3.3 is very, very important to make sure that the bare minimum contact between the students and the lecturers outside of the program design. Enhanced education is also part of the standard requirement under 3.4.1, where how do you engage so that the student will come back to you, will have learned first week, they will come back and learn the second week onwards. Okay, so in terms of other support system, you can have perhaps an academic advisory team. Okay, so that can be done. For example, for either per program or you want to divide instead of per program, you want to divide it per group, per locality. For example, so students in Malaysia have one advisor, students from say China have one advisor, students from Oman or Middle East have one advisor. So in terms of how you structure it, but one good suggestion is having this academic advisor. In UM, our academic advisor is the the program coordinator. The program owner is our academic advisor. So we don't divide the students based on locality, but rather based on program. So if the student is taking the program, regardless of where the student is, the program coordinator for now needs to take on the needs of the student. Okay. And of course, technical support is very, very important. Help with how to access the content and how to use digital tools. So say, for example, if we are using a more specific digital tools like engineering, you might use MATLAB, for example, and then you want to embed MATLAB into your LMS, but the student have not used MATLAB before. So how do you actually provide the material so that the student can learn on how to use MATLAB inside the LMS without any teacher? Okay, so these are part of the consideration based on the program that you plan on offering. Okay, you can also have help desk, a central point where regardless of what the problem is, students can always go to this particular avenue and ask for help. Okay, so in UM, we are now switching to help desk. So regardless of what problem there is in the university, whether it's an academic, non-academic, facility problem, civil problem, or different regard other than LMS problem. So we go to run this help desk platform, and then inside there where we actually define what is the problem and the help will go to help desk. So that is what we have. You can also have an FAQ. FAQ is totally for simple things. Okay, and you can always put FAQ on your LMS platform. And you can also have live chat support, whether it's an AI based or a human based. Again, it's all up to the university to actually decide on how you want to provide this. While for enhancing retention, so the things that you need to provide is a networking support where they could be peer mentoring, online communities, and based on these two principles, this is what we provide, what we call as ODL Cafe. Okay, so ODL Cafe is where all the students, regardless of which program you are taking, you are actually combined into this one ODL Cafe. It's like when you are going to cafeteria, you meet everybody. So this is what we are doing. Of course, it's an online. It might not be as interactive as WhatsApp nowadays, but nonetheless, we still provide it. If individual programs or lecturers wants to provide additional notes, we are happy to welcome lecturers to actually do it. Okay. Benefits, of course, you build connection, we support one another in terms of your learning, and perhaps you can post questions that you don't understand so that they can learn between one another. Okay, and the other one is engagement strategies, where you can have a regular feedback, as I mentioned. At the end of every week, you can have a feedback modules in your LMS, where students can actually go in, type their feedback, what they have learned, and what can be improved in the future. Okay, and of course, to the end of the day, interactive sessions is very, very important so that you can get a quick feedback on your materials that you provided. Okay, so this is the last one, a case study on how we actually do it. Of course, other than the obvious, the documentations and whatnot, it's streamlined, it should be identical for everybody. But how do we actually do it? So a little bit of background, because our ODL program started back in 2019, but until 2022, we don't have any program at all. We did not offer any program. So the original task was given to UMCSAT. Okay, so they was the best unit to actually develop ODL because they have their own structure, they have their own account, they have their own money, they have their own system outside of what UM has. Okay, so originally it is for ease of administration. Okay, to put it under, for example, CPD has so many units, so many things to look at, to take care of. So it might be a bit difficult to actually have a streamlined process. So it might be a good idea for UIA to do a benchmarking to UKM, for example, and see how they structure their unit and their ODL program is running smoothly. Like UM, we are still fixing our loopholes here and there, but UKM is very nice. Okay, in 2022, ODL program was not ready, so we do have documentations, we do have the preliminary accreditation from MQA, so we can start to offer programs, but the programs are not ready. Initially, it should be developed by UMCSAT, but because at that point, was successful in developing more than 28 courses for our MC for micro-credential. So we were given the wahyu to actually now do ODL. Okay, so we just took the banner, complete everything, and then in 2023, 2024, the first 4 programs were offered. But again, as I mentioned, originally it's just for us to develop the content, not everything else. So there's no marketing, there's no this, there's no that. So that's why even though we have 4 programs, but we only have 20 students registering for our ODL program. Okay, so how do we do it? In terms of governance, the first thing that we do is we develop guidelines. So these guidelines, as I mentioned, because UM has different structure, we have central units, we have faculties. So who is responsible for individual tasks? Okay? So this is what the guideline is for. So to say that you will be handling this unit, you'll be handling for student registration, admission, visa, Q&A for pre-registration. That unit will be handling course development, program documentation. The other one will be handling on orientation. Okay, so you make it clear from the very beginning so that everybody knows what they need to do. Okay, so say for example, in UM, we have central unit, we have MBSD, marketing, and student something, I can't remember the unit now. And then I am from ASPD, so this is now the ODL Center. Okay, so we are looking after the quality, the documentation itself. We are looking at facilities in terms of the LMS, the support service, the orientation. We are now taking care of everything, but of course, to executive, we need to get back to all the respective unit that is responsible for individual things. Okay, and we are also looking at specifically on COPA ODL and skill development. While the team and the faculty, they are not just an expert, not the SME, but they are also the content developer. So we at SPD, we're just looking at the structure, all the other services. We provide all the templates so that all the courses are similar in terms of structure, in terms of the UI, but the content itself is being developed by the faculty. Okay? So the faculty is the program owner. We are the central unit that looks after everyone so that everything is standard. Okay, so that is something that can be done as well. Or you can also have like UKM, everything under one roof. Faculty, for them, faculties are just SME, they came in, they just provide some information, but they don't do any work at all other than just the sharing of knowledge. But in UM, lecturers are the ones that develop the content. So they do the recording, they do the sync, they do pretty much everything. Other than the structure, the templates, on how the program flow, those are all our responsibility. Okay. And of course, as I mentioned, we focus on the older program first, programs that faculty says that they either want to discontinue because the lecturers are having too much work. Okay. So instead of, but some of the programs actually generated income. But because the lecturer complained, so you switch it. So for conventional, now you do it 100% sim. So lecturer develop it once, you don't have to look at it as frequent as you have to previously. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And then of course we highlight on 3 TNL elements. Number one, sim. So all programs will be 100% sim. From the very beginning, this is what we told all the faculties. Develop it, design it so that it's 100% sim. So it will ease out your burden in the long term. But if some faculties they wanted to use the 20%, be my guest, you can do it. Okay, but we suggest start off with 100% sim. It will be easier. And then for PNL activities, we always involve multiple modes. So we involve audio, text, video, and then interactive video using H5P, and a little bit of image, depending on what cost. In terms of assessment, anything that is formative, we embed it in our LMS, we embed it in H5P, we embed it as part of a quiz element inside Moodle. But for formative, we always encourage lecturers, course order to do it as an alternative assessment. Okay, not to do it conventionally, not to do MCQ, not to do any writing, not to do a thesis option, unless it is very, very necessary to do a thesis. But otherwise, try and avoid it because AI is coming in, it's taking over all the writing things. So it's not worth reading AI and not so useful. Okay. And we also do annual workshop. We engage faculties that are currently developing their own program. So we bring everyone together. We bring experts, we bring speakers from outside to share their structures on how they actually do things. So and from there, either we improve or the audience can improve or we improve together. Okay, so that's how we do it. Sync guidance by instructional designer. So we have also workshop about sync by our IDs. So if you have, we have 4 IDs. So 2 IDs is looking after MC, two IDs looking after ODL. But when we are doing this sync workshop, we normally just combine all together and we bring everyone who wants to do the MC and ODL to come in together and learn at one go. Okay, so this is how we do it. We also provide a standard template for our LMS. So regardless of what program you're doing, standard template is there. These are some of the requirements. So we must have this and this and this and this. And some things are optional. Lecturers can remove it if they don't want to. But things like, for example, feedback. So it is compulsory for all programs, all courses to have feedback from each individual weeks. So that's how we actually do it. Okay. And then what we do is we also looked at all the feedback per week and analyze if there's any issues and give feedback to the lecturers. Okay, so that's part of our support that we give. And finally, which is very important, to develop a KPI system to get a buy-in from the lecturers. And at the end of the day, when we do a benchmarking to any other universities, regardless of whether it's MC or ODL, there's always financial gain money for the lecturers to do all this extra work. Okay, so we also have developed a policy of this, so that lecturers that involved in the development of MC and ODL, they will get paid extra outside of their salary. Okay, so this is a buy-in that I think is very, very important for all of this. Okay, in terms of digital tools, as I mentioned, we provide templates. Moodle as an LMS for ODL is sufficient. It's good enough. And because you can provide standard templates, you can share it with all the lecturers. They can easily, quickly just fit in the contents that they have developed into the LMS. Okay. And we also have how to do sync. section, okay, where the SIM, how to do SIM is learned through SIM. So we provide a SIM on how to do SIM. Okay, and we provide this inside the LMS itself. So the lecturers can just go through the SIM, going through it, and then deliver their own SIM for their own program. Okay, a SIM for a SIM. Okay. And finally, utilizing an open source tool is very important. YouTube can be a substitution for all storage for videos, especially, and HPAP modules as an interactive element instead of using ad puzzles and other different tools that can do interactive video sessions. Okay. In terms of engagement, we have introduced ODL Cafe. So this is where we encourage all students or participants to actually engage and communicate with one another. We utilize Moodle completion tracking for individual tasks that students need to do every week. Okay, so that means at the day, as a lecturer, we can go back to our course, say once a week, and then see what are the progresses for each individual students, and then we can always communicate to them directly if they are like behind comparison to the other colleagues. Okay. And finally, we are developing an online one-stop center. Okay. So for students to just go in there and then take as much information that they can from one site instead of going through multiple sites. Okay. Like navigation, healthcare, the resources that is provided by the university to them as a student. Okay. And in terms of course and teaching effectiveness, we have our C-test system. It is compulsory for students to complete. I'm sure you guys have similar system as well. So from there, you can always learn what is the something that you can always improve for your program. Okay. So course is handled by faculty. So faculty has a very checking your students' progress. So this is outside of our ODL center's responsibility. Again, this is because this is how we structure our ODL for now. In the future, I'm not sure, but this is how it is for now. So for UIA, suggestion, if you have a proper design, then it will be easier for you to decide on. Okay. And we also provide a template for entry survey and feedback survey for TNL for every week. Okay, so students, we always want students to engage, to do something when they go into the LMS, not just simply going in, take video, and then listening to it, and then go out. Okay, so they must do something. And then because some programs are not 100% sync, we always advise them, look at how you want to do it. And most of the time, we ask them to do it after office hours, okay, because the target is for working adults. So do it after working hours. And any engagement that they done on this 20%, they will get 100 ringgit per 1 hour session. Okay, so that's what we are doing. So if you think your workload is too burdening, then do 100% SIM. If you think that you can still do an engagement, you can do 80% SIM and 20% still engagement, and we still pay extra on the engagement that you are doing. Okay, so that's the structure that we are doing in UF. And of course, for post-graduation support, it's mostly on the alumni, so alumni unit will take over from there. Okay. So as a conclusion, ODL provide adaptable educational tools. That is bias blah blah blah. So these are all because I'm already tired talking for 2 hours to stop. Okay. So think of LMS and your digital resources as a Swiss Army knife. If you have not seen one, okay, of education. They have the tool for every class, and they can make things your learning being more engaging for students. Okay, so LMS is there, Moodle is there. You can do all of this. It's just a matter of if you have not used it, you need to learn on how to use it before you can actually use it. Okay, but it's already there. Effective evaluation and feedback are crucial for enhancing ODL program, especially because all of us are new to ODL. Okay, so it's a learning process. Even for us, it's still a learning process. There are still things that we are improving. And the most important thing is if you want to develop ODL, you need to read about ODL. Okay, so listening to this introduction is very good for just getting a brief idea on what might be the workload that you are thinking of getting yourself into. But if you have read Copa ODL, then you really know that you are actually jumping from just simply from the table to down there. You're actually jumping out from an airplane into the ground. So it's bigger than what is presented here. Okay. So I think that's all from me. Q&A. Okay, so question. Any other questions that you want to ask?
We've got a continuous assessment of it. When we involve group projects and when we are it be challenging to are the students that they are addicted one level so that they can
So the idea, that's the idea why we have an ODL technique. So we want students to communicate with one another. Yeah, even before we give any assignment. So do it first. So and then once they have connected, so regardless of where they are, nowadays, say for example, if the assignment is about taking a poster, you can always use Microsoft PowerPoint and then you share it with everybody. Okay, so everybody have access. So people can have access anytime they want, they can still do it. Yeah, but of course, so if you have a bigger group, then the problems will also grow. So you limit it to 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 individuals to do it, depending on the size of the class. But it's even better than doing individually, because otherwise they will just go to AI. Yeah.
ODL finish within the normal regular.
Yes. Yeah.
Although it's flexible, but you still.
Exactly. So it is flexible. So the flexibility doesn't come from taking the course. It's the flexibility in terms of how many courses they can take per semester. Yeah. So for conventional, normally regardless of if it's conventional, normally they need to finish it, say, the minimum of 2 semesters, for masters, for example, and maximum of 4 semesters. For ODL, they extend until 6 or 8, okay? So instead of taking, say, 4 courses per semester, they can now take only 2 courses. So the flexibility is still there. It's not as flexible as doing micro-credential, for example, but nonetheless, there are some flexibility. For now, we don't. So it's because currently our ODL program is more expensive than conventional. So those who are taking ODL, they have this kind of like push to complete because it's more expensive than conventional. Yeah. So the longer they take the program, the more they will pay. Yeah. Of course, but to say the day, the feedback that we receive is also ODL is expensive. So by as well, let's take the ODL from a different university. So we are trying to take the midpoint, because if you do it as similar as the conventional, what we might see is people just learn it 1 semester and then you just leave, goes for a while and then they come back. So there can be some issues in terms of GOT. So for now, we are not really pushing on the GOT, but maybe in the future we will.
Study this now. How long does it take for, on average, for to develop one the ODL portal?
What program? If you exclude all the documentation, because sometimes documentation takes a while. But if you transfer from the conventional to an ODL, documentation is faster. Okay, so that one, I will say, give it about 1 full month without doing any teaching. So, say for example, after this, if you were to start any ODL program, you can finish it in October, just doing the paperwork. And then developing the course content. If it's a new course, then it will take time. But if it's a course that you have taught, the shortest record that we have is 3 weeks to complete a single course. For single course by 2 individuals. But of course, if you consider the whole program, the fastest is about 2 months. Yeah. Yeah, including everything. So once we can start offering, because what we are doing is for ODL, MQA allows us to do a pre-accreditation program. So once you have completed the first semester, you can start offering. While at the same time, you continue developing the second semester and even third semester if you want to. So that's what we are doing. That's why we have all these 5 programs running. Out of these 5, only 2 are actually completed the whole program. Semester 1, semester 2. The other 3, because they are doing 3 and 4 semesters, so we built it like every semester. Say semester 1 has completed, that's why we can offer. So only semester 1, the lecturers needs to develop semester 2's documents, content. And then to semester 2, they need to develop semester 3. So that's how we push the lecturers. And we always have this workshop where we combine everyone who have not completed their program, sit down, block your calendar, don't do anything else, focus. Yeah. We provide you food. So you don't have to think about food, you just come, do your work, eat, and go back. Just to encourage. So at least that's how we do it. But of course, it depends on the funding. Like UKM, or initial funding that they receive for ODL program is 2 million. So they can do a lot of things. So that's why they can properly plan. They have proper structure. But for UM, the initial funding that we receive is 0. So we need to use existing resources. We need to design. We need to go through here and there to make sure that the program is handled properly. So once it is passed to adapt at that time, because we are handling training for lecturers, so we put in budgets for ODL development as part of our training. So we use the same budget pool to also develop MC, ODL, and all the other trainings. So once we have this small money, we can do a lot more things. So yeah, if the university wants to push ODL, ask them for money. So that makes life very, very easy. Otherwise, it's like a pot thing. Okay, so thank you for listening. So if you scan this QR, you will get my contact number, my email address, so that's save to your phone. I will share this slide to CBD, and then they will share with everybody else. I will not share the PowerPoint because in the PowerPoint I have my own notes and there's a lot more information. This slide is about 50 pages, but the whole slide is, what is it, 70-ish slides. So it's a competition. Try to combine this and that. So that's 82, including the old name. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Hadi. Very insightful and informative session. Perhaps before we end our session today, probably our city director from Mira would like to say something.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, like the summarize that. Okay. So, I just want to thank you, Dr. Hadi, and everyone. Thank you so much for joining the session today. I hope this will give some kind of assurance that it is doable, although with 0 budget, it's not. And 2 million. It's a big spectrum, like 2 million and 0. So, but anyway, hopefully it gives us assurance that it is doable. In IUM ourselves, I think the first one that will be the first project that we will be working on again is with IUM. So hopefully, once one program is rolled out, then everyone can learn from the good and bad, the hard and straight of developing an ODL. Whereas for those who are still contemplating to build one, we will be more than happy to assist in any way we could. On the same time, I believe the office in charge in our university for ODL is actually academic when it comes to promoting and rolling out the program. CPD will be assisting with the platforms and developing the scene. Okay, so I think it'll be all. Thank you so much, and thank you for the learning unit as well as the team from the learning unit for the admin for assisting. I really hope that this will be again first step to ODL and IUM. So thank you again for Al-Hadi, and thank you so much everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Right, thank you again, Al-Hadi and as well as Romeo. That's the end of our session today. We will end our session by reciting the speaker.